Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to show you some amazing mixed media techniques that you can use on your cards, especially combining tissue paper and stamps. So this beautiful tissue paper with these dragonflies on it is typically used for art journaling, and I'm going to use some of the same techniques that are used in art journaling to create these cards, but I just want you to realize how fun it is to use some of these projects in a card format. So I have just a regular white card front here, and I'm collaging a music book page that I've torn up onto my card front with a little bit of a slightly heavier body matte medium. I use two different kinds of matte mediums depending on what I'm doing. If I want the paper to kind of warp less, like I'm working on a card and not in my art journal, I'll use this heavier body one that has a little bit less water in it to apply my collage mediums and items, just so that my cardstock doesn't curl a bunch. So I always put some medium down onto the substrate and then put the collage piece down and then cover it up. That's just a good practice. So I use my Hero Art Circle Infinity dies to cut these beautiful images out of the tissue paper, and then I also cut a white cardstock circle. Now you'll want to set your collage piece aside to dry while you're working on this step. So I have this beautiful script background stamp, and I want to show you, this is the real magic of combining tissue paper with stamps. I want to show you how this stamping will show through this beautiful tissue paper. That's why they're so fun to use together. So I'm using India ink because it is waterproof ink, and I need it to be waterproof because I'm going to be putting that same gel medium down to adhere the tissue paper. So I put the cardstock circle down onto the inked stamp, and I'm just using a piece of deli paper to make sure that I'm applying pressure right to the little circle and picking up any excess ink. So I'll lift that off. You can get a beautiful impression being able to do that way, and I just love the way that text looks. So I will separate the tissue paper from the little cardstock circles and repeat this process for all three. The hint of the text peeking through the tissue paper is just one of my favorite things on a card. And it's going to let you use your stamps with this tissue paper in a really fun way. Now, there are lots of different designs. This is beautiful Italian rice paper, and there are so many fun things. So I'll have a link to the whole collection below so you can go pick the design that works for you. But as it's been a very wet spring here and we have a ton of dragonflies, I thought that dragonflies would be super fun today. So this is also a very fast drying ink, so I don't have to worry about moving on to the next step too quickly with the matte medium, because in my climate, it dries almost immediately. So I'm applying the same heavier body matte gel medium all over the circle with the script on it and making sure it doesn't dry, and then just applying that die cut tissue paper circle to the top. Then you always want to go on top of it with the matte medium. The matte medium will soak through the tissue paper and increase the transparency, so it will increase your ability to see the text in the background. But the beautiful foreground design with the dragonfly is preserved, and I could not love that more. I love the watercolor look of these images and all of the other ones on the website. I just think they're so beautiful, and it's so great to use with stamps. So it adds just a ton of interest to the background. Now, these already had some circles drawn. That's one of the reasons that I chose a circle die cut to finish these off. That one had a very distinct circle image. and then the dragonflies fit really neatly into the circle die. Now this one has some of the watercolor kind of little splotches as well as the first one did. So these are the 3 that I will be using. I love this matte medium. It dries so fast. So once you get a good thin even layer on there, you're not going to have to wait too long for the next step. Now that the collage pieces are dry, I'm taking some of my chalky gesso and I'm applying it to the music paper, and that is just to cool down the color of that warm paper. It has kind of a vanilla look, and I didn't want it quite that warm. And also to fade the actual detail of the music paper just a bit into the background. Because I'm using the text on the background of the tissue paper, I didn't want the background of the actual card to be too prominent. I wanted just a hint of that music and the text and something that sort of pulled it all together. Now for the edges of the circles, once the tissue paper is dry, I am just adding a bit of licorice ink with a makeup sponge to the edge of this. This is to sort of make it look like a bubble because I wanted kind of that water feeling with dragonflies. We have a little pond down the street where our dragonflies tend to hang out. So water is definitely part of the influence of this design. Because it's matte medium, the ink takes to it really well. And then I will also put a little bit of patterning in the background of the collaged piece with a lighter gray ink and a makeup sponge and this fun brick wall stencil. So I'm just sort of doing it here and there. I'm not going to cover the entire background with this brick pattern. I just wanted it sort of showing through a little bit around the round circle with the dragonfly. So just here and there sort of bricks, and you can even move it. It doesn't make any difference whether or not they're lined up with each other. That's the beauty of kind of using any size stencil. You can just move it around and pick up the pattern that you like. I love the way those little bricks show through all of that. So now I have the same text stamp, and I'm going to use the lighter gray ink. One of the reasons that I love these cling stamps is my ability to just sort of partially stamp them in my art journal or on my cards, so you can see a little additional text detail on that background that's really fun. And then it coordinates the background and the foreground because it's the exact same text. So now I have some paper glitz. This is so beautiful, this just shimmery sparkle, and I'm using a makeup sponge just to apply this to the wings. This makes them so shimmery and beautiful and really sort of completes the dragonfly look. Now you can apply this a few different ways, and I'm going to show you a couple of ways to get it on there, but with the makeup sponge you can kind of squish down the end of that sponge so that you can get it really into some tight spaces. So that helps me cover the most landscape with the makeup sponge. And then if you want to go back with a tool, I have a little shaper tool that I'll be using later to add just a little bit more. But this helps you cover a lot of ground very quickly. So now I have my little silicone tool, and that helps me really spread kind of a thick layer of the paper glitz out and around that wing. And I'm just picking it up from the lid of the container. So it had sort of settled that way when it was shipping to me. And so I have a good amount of the product in the lid. And I do like to start with the lid. I am sort of frugal that way. But for the rest of it, you can just sort of create a fine tip with your makeup sponge or whatever tool you want. The only thing you don't want to do is you do not want to use this product with blending brushes because it dries so fast. It will ruin the little delicate fibers of your blending brushes. So you want to do it with a sponge or a little tool. But look how shimmery that is. Amazing. I love it. So here are the finished little circles. These are all so beautiful. The wings are very shimmery. That's very hard to capture in a photograph, so it's much easier to tell you on video. And I will have collaged backgrounds for all three of these, and I will mount all three of them on gray cardstock, since that's the primary ink that I had for both the stenciling and around the edge of that circle, sort of making that look like a bubble. It was the right choice for the card base. So I hope you give this fun tissue paper a try. It's so amazing for card making, and it actually really makes for quick and beautiful cards with a lot of detail. So here are the finished cards. I have 3 of these, and they're so beautiful that they don't even need a sentiment. So head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.